and welcome to the behind the scenes making of the WAGMI Defense anime trailer. My name is Scott Herman. I'm one of the co-founders here at WAGMI Games. And for those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that we take our characters and story just as serious as we do our gameplay. Now, before we dive in, if you haven't seen the full anime trailer yet, you can check it out on our X page, WAGMI Game Co., or you can go to our official YouTube channel, WAGMI Games. It's only about 1 minute and 27 seconds long, but believe it or not, it took close to 9 months to create. And that's what we're about to jump in right now. So strap in. I'm about to give you a sneak peek behind the curtain. But before we do, I have to give credit where credit's due, and that's to our friends over at Outer. Jordan and Nate and their entire team, they've been a part of the process from the very beginning, and in fact, they are still a part of the process, helping us further flesh out the universe, creating our story Bible, because we're going to be pitching our series to all the major networks. But more on that later. So what does it take to create an anime? Well, obviously, first you have to have a story, you have to have your characters, and then from there, you have to find the right studio. And 3 out of those 9 months was us literally talking to, loads of studios trying to figure out which one would work best for us. As you guys know, there are a lot of different types of anime and cartoon styles that you can go with, and something that always just sat right with me and kept gnawing me in the back of my mind was we need to do the same style as He-Man Revelations on Netflix. I think that style of anime is great. The characters have a lot of detail, but not so much detail where it gets incredibly expensive. And then whether it's what the characters look like and how their muscles are sketched out, right, versus the technology that's brought to life. For those of you who watched He-Man Revelations, the main bad guys were, of course, Skeletor, but also Motherboard. So there's a lot of technology integration happening in that animation. I just thought, man, it would be so great to work with a studio that could replicate that. And one of the studios that Outer happened to get us meetings with was Powerhouse Animation. In fact, a lot of you have reached out before even knowing this and said, man, the animation style of the WAGMI Defense anime reminds me of Castlevania. Well, Powerhouse Animation, sure, they did He-Man, but they also did Castlevania. They've also done Sesmanos, Blood of Zeus, and a lot of other ones that you've probably seen when scrolling through Netflix. And so getting on board with a top-notch studio was step one. The next step after that was, well, what is the story going to be? And that's where Outer came in. Jordan and Nate came to us with a presentation to explain the vision of how we were going to bring these characters to life. We knew with this anime trailer, we wanted to tell the story of Melkrose, right? How she got her powers, how her parents got abducted, how she became a freedom fighter, and then at the end of the day, how she became General Melkrose, the cyborg. And in fact, we dive even deeper into that into our second comic book, WAGMI Games NiFe Wars, Melkrose Origins. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the comic yet, when you do and you dive right in, you're going to see even more of the story unfold. But we'll save that for later. We're going to put that off to the side. This video right here that you're seeing was the very first presentation that Outer brought to us, trying to help us visualize what the story could look like. So right here, right, this image, this is Melkrose laying down on the ground before that alien spaceship flies over, right? So you can see a really great comparison. And so we went through the entire process and tried to visualize what this could look like so we could then take this to Powerhouse Animation and give them a place to start with their storyboard. And so once we had this complete and we were happy with the story, we needed to then figure out, okay, well, what are these characters going to look like? Because at this moment in time, sure, we had that amazing collaboration with GadgetBot, right? GadgetBot, for those of you who don't know, they're a top AAA graphics studio in the world. They do Pacific Rim, they do Transformers, right? They do Jurassic World, Apex Legends, Call of Duty Black Ops. That's the studio that we went with to design our characters. That's why our characters, look so cool. But you can't exactly take this exact Malcros and put her in the anime. We wanted to have the anime to have its own look and feel. Now, there's one thing that I don't like just as a consumer of anime and as an avid player of video games. I don't like it when characters look too different going from one medium to another. But as you can see, Powerhouse Animation, when they came back at us with what Malcros is going to look like in the anime, for the most part, it's pretty much a one-to-one comparison. I mean, they just absolutely nailed it. Myself and the rest of the team, we were just like flipping out when we saw this. We're like, holy crap, it's happening. It's happening. Malcros is coming to life. We're so excited. And so once we established what Malcros looked like, we then had to figure out what she looked like as a freedom fighter, and then what young Malcros would look like. And we felt on the first pass that young Malcros, she looked a little bit too innocent here. She looks too much like a kid. Sure, she's a teenager, but it's shortly after her parents get captured that she joins the WAGMI defense and becomes a freedom fighter. And so we did make some slight changes to her, and we ended up with this young Malcros right here. And so you can see the transition from young Malcros to freedom fighter and then to cyborg Malcros looks a little bit better. The other one, she just looked a little bit too young, right? So once we figured out how we wanted young Malcros to look, there are some very specific things happening here that you may not have caught on with, right? So like when she's young Malcros, her hair is longer, but it's also one color. When she becomes a freedom fighter, she gets a shorter haircut, right? Because now she's in war, so she wants her hair shorter, but she has some pink in her hair. And then when she becomes, General Malcros and she's a cyborg, she has a lot more pink in her hair. But why does she have more pink? Well, it wasn't because Dagon, after he decided to tear her limb from limb, thought it might look cool and then also dyed her hair, right? It plays more into the story as to why her hair gets gradually more pink and why she always has pink all around her. I mean, even as a kid, she has her necklace, her pendant that has pink inside of it, and it's because she can wield the power of the pink Adalium isotope. And you even see that in her Adala blade or her sword, which I'll get into a little bit later. And so we wanted to make sure that that progression was made very clear even in this short anime. So once we had her character established, we then had to start figuring out what are the other characters going to look like. And so, of course, the Human Emperor is in the anime, and this is what his character came back as. And again, right, it's a one-to-one. It looks pretty much exactly like how the Human Emperor looks inside of the game. And here's the finished version of him right there. So once we had a few of these characters figured out, while they were doing this, Powerhouse was also putting their storyboard together. And I'm going to share with you guys the very first storyboard that they played for us, and myself and the entire team, as well as Outer, we were just like freaking out. We were like, holy crap, it's happening, it's coming to life. We're seeing the story being brought to life in a way that we had always imagined, but at the end of the day, you never really know if it's going to happen, right? So these panels right here, obviously very rough, just kind of crude drawings to get the idea out there, but if you've watched the entire anime, you're seeing it come to life right now. Like if you've seen the finished product and now you're watching this, I mean, you're seeing what we saw for the first time, and we could visualize what it was going to look like just from these panels. In fact, my favorite scene, even in the very beginning, was always this one. Like the doctor putting her arm on, right? Like I always thought this part was so cool. She's getting put back together. And then like one of the few animation sequences we got in the very beginning was this injection of pink Adalium to kind of like jumpstart her and bring her back to life. And I mean, it just came out so great. We were so excited. So from here, we had to obviously start establishing, what the other characters look like, what the Alien Emperor was going to look like, right? But also, most importantly, Dagon, because Dagon has a really big part in the anime. He's the one who's torturing her, tearing her apart while she's inside the tube, prying into her mind, trying to extract her memories, which you'll learn more about that in the comic book, right? And so Powerhouse Animation, all they had to work with was this original drawing just from the front, but because they're so great, this is what we got back. And again, it's a 1-to-1. I mean, they brought Dagon to life in such a great way. We were so happy with him. And then from here, there were some other things that we needed to button up. One of those things was her Adala blade, right? We had to figure out what was her sword going to look like when she became General Melkros. And then we also had to figure out what her sword was going to look like that her dad gives her. Because remember, once her dad gets captured, he throws her the sword and then she catches it. And it's in that moment where she catches it that she becomes Freedom Fighter Melkros. And so what I'll do is I'll show you guys right here. That sword is on the wall right there. And so in this moment, her father grabs the sword, and then when she catches it, she goes from teenager Melkros to Freedom Fighter Melkros. And so that sword needed to look really good. And it actually pays homage to what her original sword looked like in the original beta a few years ago. Some of you might have recognized it if you've been with us for that long. Another really cool thing was this flower. Now, this flower that you see in the very beginning of the anime, it's doing a lot more than just dropping to the ground. This flower is essentially like establishing from the very beginning that this is a futuristic anime. This is taking place in the year 3022, and the way it's established is that you don't see your reflection in a flower, right? Go outside right now and pick as many flowers as you can. I promise you that you will not see your reflection. But she's seeing her reflection in this moment because in the future, the flower that she picked is a combination of organic and inorganic material. I mean, even on the bottom here, there's actually wires coming out from where she plucked it from the ground. And you may or may not have noticed this, but when the flower drops, you can see those wires right there. Boom, right there. You can see the wires from the bottom of the flower. So a little Easter egg that you may or may not have picked up on because it happens so quick. But this flower is establishing that we are indeed in the future. So moving on from there, some other characters that you see in the trailer are Talos. And again, for Talos, we had the image from Gadgetbot, and then Powerhouse Animation got to work and brought him to life, and he just looks absolutely incredible. And after so it took about 6 months for them to create the entire anime, to create all these characters. About halfway into that process, so 3 months in, we started getting these colored panels, right? And these colored panels are what Powerhouse Animation used to establish, the flow of what the trailer was going to look like and then get to work. So like, hey, are these the right colors we want to use? Is this how we want the characters to look in each scene? And we actually leaked a few of these a couple times. I know we leaked this one right here to let you guys know that an anime was coming, right? And then we also leaked this one right here to show what Melkros was going to look like as a cyborg. And a lot of people thought that was like what the actual anime looked like, right? No, these were just like sketches from a panel that we were given of a storyboard to show us what the final sequences were going to look like. And soon after we got those, we got this. And this is an updated version of that original video that I showed you guys of, the animation sequence happening here. So we went from this to seeing this, with a few iterations in between, obviously, right? But as you can see, the storyboard is much more established here. We're seeing exactly what the characters look like. We're seeing what the movements look like, what the transitions look like. And once we gave the final approval of this sequence, that's when the entire team at Powerhouse was able to come in and start doing all of the coloring, right? And start adding all the effects and things like that. Now I'm just going to let this continue to play out. Human Emperor and Talos come in. They save Melkros. Talos has her in her arm, and now she's getting put back together on the table here. She gets injected with the pink Adalium to kind of bring her back to life. And then, boom, we have the WAGMI defense right here. So soon after this was shown to us, as I had mentioned, Powerhouse went to work on coloring everything in. So they started teasing us with like colored panels like this. I wanted to post this right away on Twitter, but we were like, no, we're going to wait We're going to surprise everybody with the finished anime first. So here's Talos having his neck being held by an Inu guard. Here's the alien emperor piercing Melkros through her torso with his forearm blade right there. Just looked absolutely incredible. And again, right, like this shot for me, even in the very beginning when it only looked like this. Hold on, let me back it up. She's on the table. This shot for me, I'm just like, wow, people are going to fall in love with this character. And I still think it's the most epic shot in the entire animation sequence. Well, the ending is pretty cool too, because you start to see the other main characters that are going to be introduced as the anime unfolds, right? So you have General Stamima, General Figu, Talos on the side over here. This is actually our sniper Maya. So you're going to see more of her coming soon. The Human Emperor, and then of course Leviathan on the corner there. You know, this process, it was a very long process. It took 9 months to complete, but what we got was this trailer right here. And then even after we got this trailer, I'm going to let it play for you guys really quick. We then had to add all the sound effects and the voiceovers. So Powerhouse Studios, they created the animation. We then continued to work with our friends over at Outer to do all of the sound effects and the voiceovers to really bring this thing to life in a big way. So as you can see, that's her becoming a freedom fighter. Now she's going to save Talos. He's being held by an Inu guard. They kind of share a moment right there. And you'll see that moment come back at the end of the animation when he saves her too. So she drops her father's sword. Dagon's experimenting on her, tearing her apart limb from limb, right? She gets saved by the Human Emperor and Talos. And then in this moment right here, they kind of share that nod of acknowledgement again, right? And then boom, my favorite part, her arm gets put back on. She gets injected with the pink gallium, brought to life, and she's ready to start kicking ass in a really big way. So we hope you guys are just as excited as we are for the future of this franchise. We have huge plans. We have been working with our friends over at Outer, as well as our friends over at Adult Fantasy NFT. In fact, those are the guys that created our second comic book, NiFe Wars Melkros Origins, to start planning out what the episodes look like. And quite soon here, we're going to be shopping this anime, the Story Bible, everything we have to all the major networks. So hope you guys enjoyed this behind the scenes look at the anime, and we'll see you next time.